السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره. In my turn, I also offer my condolences to Imam Zaman and to you, dear brothers and sisters, for the demise anniversary of Lady Zainab Salamullah alayha. We pray that our sisters would be able to follow the path of Lady Fatima and Lady Zainab, and our brothers also would be able to follow the path of Amirul Mu'mineen and Hassanain, inshallah. The topic which has been suggested to me is relation between husband and wife. Of course, inspired by the great example of Lady Fatima and Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. As you know, this is very broad area and one of the actually most needed topics, especially today, because unfortunately we live in a time that family life is undermined by many internal or external factors, issues coming from impurity of the hearts and also from vicious forces from outside. So sometimes I think that family in today's world is very much victim of many attacks and attempts to weaken this sacred institution. But I will try to mention just few points. I cannot do justice. There is a famous hadith, you have all heard this hadith, which says, من تزوج فقد أحرز نصف دينه فليتق الله في النصف الآخر. Whoever gets married has protected half of his or her faith. Normally people translate has gained, but in my understanding, ihraz doesn't mean to gain, it means to protect. Herz is like a safe in which you put something to protect. So when a person is unmarried, he may still or she may still have her faith or his faith incomplete. It's not that by marrying you gain or half of your religion. Even before that you can have it. But for an unmarried person, that half of religion, which is the half which can be related to issues of modesty, is always in danger. So you may have it, but you may lose it easily. So by marrying, you would safeguard half of your faith. فَلْيَتَّقِ اللَّهَ فِي النِّصْفِ الْآخَرِ. But then he or she should fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, should observe Allah's will with respect to the other half. It means that all the problems are not solved by marriage. It also means that even marriage itself, from the time you marry, would become a requirement of piety to protect and to safeguard. Sometimes I make as a joke, I say, by marrying, you protect half of your religion, but you endanger the second half of your religion. Because for an unmarried person, things are much easier to some extent. Yes, the issue of our need, physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual need that we meet through marriage, that is okay, there. The challenge is there. But from other aspects, the life for a single person is easier. You decide what to eat, what to do, where to go, when to sleep. Many things you decide for yourself. Even, for example, you want to do good things, you want to spend lots of time on charity, on community work, on ibadah, going, for i'tikaf, for ziyarah. Everything you can plan for yourself. But when you marry, you have to remember you are no longer single. Now you have to always think what would be the best for this union. I'm no longer that free. Now I am responsible towards this union. So I have to consider what my wife wants, what my children want, what they need, what makes them happy. I should be the last person into consideration if it is a proper marriage. So there are people that as single, they are successful, but as married people, they are not successful. You may know many people that when they are not married, you see, these are very nice people. But when they marry, you see there are aspects of their personality that now comes into light. You see, this mu'min or mu'mina who was very good, but is not a good husband or wife. Either because has not been educated properly, has not been trained properly about what should be done as a husband, as a wife, or there is selfishness. I think the most destructive, the most dangerous thing to marriage is selfishness, is ego. And this is what makes marriage very spiritual, because the core of spirituality is to get rid of your ego. So if you marry and commit yourself to this married life, then definitely your ego becomes smaller. So, Islamically, marriage is to help us to grow in our spirituality, in our relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From the time we marry, my relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is involving my husband or my wife, my children, my in-laws. They are part of my relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot divide. We cannot say, I do my ibadah, I do everything for the sake of Allah, but then I don't bother about my family. No. When we marry, we can only go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through this married life. This is very important. Unfortunately, we see that people sometimes they don't treat their husband or their wife with respect, with love, with rahmah, and they feel nothing bad in their heart. They have peace of mind. How can a mu'min do injustice to a person with whom he has to have the closest and the most intimate relation? A person that would be the first person that we might be asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment how we had our relation together. You see, people are not showing love and mercy to family, and they don't feel anything bad. I remember many years ago when I was in Manchester, there was a family problem, and many people tried to help. I also tried to help. And the man that seemed to be the one who was not able to sort out things, he used to tell me that despite having no good relation with my wife, despite the fact that we don't have good conversations. Alhamdulillah, I have such a sukoon in my salat. I really enjoy my prayer. And I don't feel any problem in my salat. And you know, for me, this was not a sign of real presence of heart in salat. For me, as a person who was listening to him and knowing that he is the one who is making the other person suffer, my analysis was that this joy and pleasure is not coming from connection to Allah, it's coming from satisfaction of anger. When you satisfy your anger, you have some pleasure. This pleasure is not a spiritual pleasure. You may have tried, I hope you have not tried this, inshallah you will never try this, but sometimes when, even if you are guilty and you feel that the other person is guilty, but you are the real guilty, you stop talking to that person, you stop helping that person, and you feel that, oh, I am very, good mood, there's energy here, I am troubling that person, I have created problem for that person. This is only coming because you are satisfying your anger. This is a satanic pleasure. This is not a human pleasure. And this can reach the point that people torture other people and feel good. Not only they don't feel bad, they feel good that they torture people because they are satisfying their anger. So we have to be very careful. There is no way for us to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without making sure that first we are fulfilling our responsibility towards our family, and second, more than fulfilling responsibility, we are an agent for Allah who is Rahman, who is Rahim. It's not just enough to do justice. It's not just enough to observe the rights of your husband or wife. You have to be a source of rahmah. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says? من آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها. One of the signs of Allah is that in His creation, He has planned and arranged in the way that we have our match. Allah has created us in pair so that we can find peace and tranquility. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. This is in creation. Allah has created men and women in the way that they can supplement each other. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. In addition to the creation, in His legislation, He has prescribed marriage, and He has put this blessing in marriage. When some people marry and commit themselves to marriage and not just try to have some relation outside marriage, when they commit themselves to marriage, Allah has committed Himself to provide them with mawaddah and rahmah. You commit yourself, and Allah commits also Himself. There is a beautiful hadith which says that if someone marries a woman because she is beautiful, Allah leaves him and the beauty of that woman. If someone marries a woman because she is rich, Allah says, okay, I leave you, you enjoy the money of that woman. And whether it's beauty or money would not really bring pleasure. If someone marries a woman because of her iman, then Allah would also give them beauty and money. And yakunu fuqara yughnihimullahu min fadlih. If they are poor, Allah will make them free from need. But then some people say, what about beauty? How can marriage make someone beautiful? Again, this is something psychological. There are people who have very beautiful wives, but still they are looking for someone else. Sometimes they go to women who are not that beautiful as their own women. And people wonder, she has such a nice woman, why he's looking for someone else. But there are people that for them, their women is the most beautiful, the most loving, the most merciful person, even if in reality may not be like that. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this appear to him in this way. In any case, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Those who commit themselves to marriage, those who commit themselves to family life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts love, affection, mercy in their unity. And then this unity becomes the best environment for having children. If there is love and mercy, if there is mawadda and rahmah between mother and father, then you have the best setting for the children. In dua for walidain, for our parents, we say, رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. Oh Allah, please forgive me and my parents, and have mercy on them as they had mercy on me when they brought me up. They were kind and merciful with me. Please, you be merciful with them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts mercy between husband and wife. And if they keep it and extend it to their children, and we have a family of love and mercy, then we would have a generation that would be able to be very strong, no complex, no problem in their heart, in their soul, because they have received enough of love and mercy that they don't need to do any injustice to other people. If you study many criminals' lives, you see that most of these criminals are criminals because they haven't received love and mercy and attention when they were children, when they were young. So this is the way Islam is looking at marriage as a sacred institution, as a best way of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the most sacred construction that human beings have ever built. And for sure we find this reflected in the relation between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Lady Khadija and their children. We find this reflected in the relation between Amirul Mu'mineen and Lady Fatima and their children. I would like to end with these two sayings of Imam Ali alayhi salam about Lady Fatima and their marital relation. One is when Rasulullah asked him, how did you find Fatima? After marriage, Rasulullah asked Amirul Mu'mineen, how did you find your wife? As you know, Amirul Mu'mineen said, Ni'mal aun ala ta'atillah. What a good help and aid for obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only she is not an obstacle, not only she is not a problem or trouble, she is helping me to be a better servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When someone like Amirul Mu'mineen feels that she is helping him and he is receiving support from Lady Fatima, it shows that how a woman can be powerful. Another hadith from Amirul Mu'mineen about Lady Fatima is that he said, by Allah, I have never angered her until she was alive. I never forced her to do anything that she didn't like. And also, she never made me angry, and she never forced me to do anything that I didn't like. So this means that marriage is not an opportunity to gain from the other person by demanding from them and asking them to do something for us. Marriage is an opportunity to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by being kind and merciful to each other and helping each other in our journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our families and strengthen the relation of husbands and wives, parents and children in our community. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to follow the path of Muhammad and Al Muhammad, and to be with them in dunya and akhirah. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.